What is going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by comic creator Brian Michael Bendis. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Part of the reason this kind of spurred on was you had a book recently come out called Fortune and Glory, the musical,
Oh, thank
uh,
you.
and I
I love a
dug into
plug.
that.
I love a plug right up front. Thank
Listen, it's so good. Listen, I that's why I brought you on so we can talk about your work. And that was a great book that got me into it. And what I loved about that book, though, too, is it literally is doing the job of my interview for me because this literally just goes through your career in comics.
I sat on this for a while. I did a book years ago called Fortune and Glory that was like one of the first books I did that was like genuinely like not to be braggy, but well received and surprised me and taught me a lot. And it was like, oh, sharing yourself is a good thing, and made a lot of people feel like closer to their goals
Mhm.
and stuff. Like, and people like some people just felt like not alone reading it, and it was cool. And I know we've all experienced that with other people's work, but being the author of it was surprising.
Yeah.
So I always want to do another one, but I was also aware that number one, like reading about how things are going pretty well isn't that exciting. It just isn't. Like cool for an interview and all
Yeah.
that, but like reading a book and I've you've read like a actor's autobiography and they're not being honest. They're just being, yeah, that worked out and that worked out. And then a few years ago, I read Steve Martin has an autobiography. He has a few actually, one called Born Standing Up. And what he did very smartly was just talk about everything that happened to literally the day he stepped on the set of The Jerk. Because he says in the book, once I became a movie star, like my worst day was still pretty good. Like it's still like you're still like a big ass movie star
Yeah.
and wants to hear it, but everything that led up to that moment, that's the stuff that you can't stop thinking about. There's where all the life lessons you learn. And I was like, oh, that's a smart way to do it. I should do just like um just that part, right? And then the Spider-Man the musical thing happened and was so like over the top and ridiculous and not my wheelhouse and not my reality. I even sat on that for a while trying to figure out like there's something here, but I didn't do enough. Like the person who actually wrote the musical wrote a whole book about the experience as well, and as well they should. And I was like, oh, you know what? If I blend these two ideas, like because that's what it was, is like trying to describe like how why I would say yes to doing a Spider-Man the musical
Right.
is because of everything that happened prior
Yeah.
to me. So that's the story where I get to kind of surprise people with a story about comics and how much they mean and how much I love them
Yeah.
and what they brought to me and
Yeah.
what I've learned so far.
Yeah, well, and I find it interesting because I feel like this is the first one you really just talk about the whole process of, being an indie creator, and Hollywood coming calling for like Goldfish and Torso, and
Yeah.
kind of some of
Yeah.
those moments and Jinx and stuff like that. But it doesn't really go deep into your comic career. So,
No.
and at the end of that one, you said you talk about how it was hard to write that because of it was still reliving pains and stuff like this. Was this a little easier experience then of writing this? I mean, there's still some pains obviously going through it and stuff, but
No, it wasn't easier. In fact, it was harder.
okay.
For that and why I curated it for so long. Number one, with Fortune Glory, it was literally like an indie creator spouting off about like a bunch of weird shit that happened that I didn't fully understand and did feel at the time. I think I may say it in the book. I don't remember that if some of it felt like an enormous waste of my time,
Hmm.
and giving it a shape of an anecdote gives it some value at least at least let me tell you about this lunatic I
Yeah.
met, right? And or this liar just lied right to my face. And I put it out, and there were a couple people in my life that said, well, you're that's probably it for you in Hollywood if you do this. I'm like, well, then that okay, because I don't want any of this. Like
Right.
I don't want to be in meetings where I'm just being lied to or um disregarded or anything. That's okay. It's just not for me then. But what it ended up being was a nice kind of table setting that let weasels know, stay away. I might write about you. And it improved my the quality of the meetings I was getting enormously because some people wanted to meet me because of the book or liked, oh, good, you're going to be honest. Good. That's like
Yeah.
they saw, oh, you're an honest person, or at least you're trying to be an honest person. Let's get in a room. So it didn't affect me negatively at all. In fact, it improved the quality of all the Hollywood dealings that
Right.
we had. Like we sold Powers soon after A Fortune and Glory came out, and that was like, okay, no one cared at all. Um, and for this one, number one, like your biggest problem when you're writing on autobiographical stuff is that you're writing about other people as well.
Yeah.
And I actually had this weird moment in my childhood where I got to meet Harvey Pekar a couple of times because I grew up in Cleveland and he was kind of like the godfather and forefather of autobiographical comics. And so I remember even having in some shorter stories I was doing a weird feeling like I'm writing about myself, but I'm also writing about my girlfriend. She didn't really ask for this, or her family
Right.
didn't ask for this, right? And it tendrils out who you're affecting, and sometimes you don't always know
Mm.
who is being affected by this, right?
Hmm.
So, um, the Spider-Man musical became such a like once in a generation debacle
Right.
that I felt more free to write about it. You know what I mean? But at the
Yeah.
same time, some people got hurt. It's some of it's hilarious, but some of it is not funny at
Right.
all.
Yeah. That's.
And so finding that balance between like writing my truth and not stepping on anyone else's truth
Mm.
became interest. And to answer your actual question, it it's a weird feeling to put something out that's so personal
Mhm.
because it's like and a lot of my heroes have talked about your best work just as it's about to come out should feel like that close to embarrassing.
Mm.
It's very close to the same feeling of shame. And but then when it comes out and you get a positive response from people, it immediately goes from shame to like human connection, right? Like
Yeah.
the best part of it. And that's what happened here.
Mm.
I on top of hearing from people who I don't know, it actually opened the door to reconnect with some people who I haven't spoken to in a while because they had read the book. Some people at Marvel who I haven't spoken to in a while reached out both publicly and privately who were around me at that time
Mm.
and let me know not only did they enjoy it, but that that they saw it the same way as I did. That's always my big thing too, is that
Yeah.
some of these stories I've been living with for years and years, decades even, and I've talked about them, some of them publicly. Some of them have been like convention fodder, like panel
Yeah.
fodder. And every time you tell a story, as you've done on this podcast, they get a little more massaged, you know what I mean? And you're not like you still want to be truthful, but you're still like trying to tweak that story to get the best reaction you can get. I got worried that I had tweaked it past truth,
Mm.
only to find I had not. And so that was so it went from being very stressful to release, and
Mm.
then hearing from a handful of people that mean the world to me that made me feel freed of that um, generational anxiety.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it from the aspect of, in the first book, you really do you can almost lay a blank slate of like, oh, it's a Hollywood exec. And I even think at one point you're like the drawing of one of them is the exact same drawing like from 4 issues ago because you're just like, oh, they all started blur together. But here the comic world
They're
is
all
so
wearing the same shirt to
right.
this day. They're all, man, same shirt, same cut. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like in the comic world, it's so niche that like if you're a podcaster, you're a comic reader, a comic fan, like you can't kind of do like oh, I talked to this one person about this. They're gonna find out who it is and they're gonna know. So it is a lot more personal, I feel like, for that of like, and you had to probably had to balance that a lot more than I even thought about it
Well,
reading that.
even like the best example is like Walt Simonson was nice to me when I was a kid, and I have now spent decades embarrassing him in every medium I can find to let everybody know how wonderful he is. And literally, if someone invents a new medium, I'm on there talking about Walt Simonson. And so just even that, just even going, hey, I'm going to dramatize this moment he didn't ask for this. That's not what the interaction was about. So just
Right.
making sure that people weren't offended or not into it,
Yeah.
or I don't want to be part of whatever you're doing here. That kind of stuff. Yeah, it does involve a lot more people. But even in Fortune and Glory, like the last third of the book, Mark and Draco is sitting right next to me in every panel. And I had to go to Mark. I go, are you okay are you all right? He was totally okay with it. But
Yeah.
I just like you realize like, you're turning someone into an avatar
Mm. Hmm.
and manipulating them. It's a very
Yeah.
strange journey.
Well, you mentioned that in the Walt Simonson stuff that happened right at the beginning of the book. And I kind of always like to talk to my creators when I have them on of like comics, and you obviously were into comics at an early age. What was it about comic books though that drew you in that like became your escape, it seems like?
Well, I know just because I know that I'm a little boy without a dad, and these are like these, empowered male figures mostly. And I know there's part of it is that, but I really don't think I ever engaged that much with that part of it. Like, I'm sure
Um,
it's there. I don't want to
yeah.
deny that that was the engagement, right? That there's big colors and big fights and flashy stuff. But I was very early on engaged with the craft and the art form, and even like my biggest early memories are seeing that the color key is off a little bit. Like
Mm.
I'm aware of the production of comics, and I so I started making them young, as I talk about in the thing. Like I was trying to engage with them, and the big one being that the moment my brain opened up enough to realize that the credits in the book were
Mm.
describing that someone's job was to make this book,
Yeah.
and that this book made me feel a certain way. And then like, oh, someone's job is to make people feel this way, then that will be my job. Like that is a job that I want, right?
Yeah.
And so from earliest days, pursued it almost myopically, just like everything I'm doing in life is the goal to make comics and to figure out how to make comics, and to almost like an archaeologist dig through comic magazines and pre-internet to figure out like how to make them, right? There weren't comic classes, there weren't a lot of books, they weren't readily available, so you really had like dig through old issues of like Comic Buyer's Guide and Comic Scene magazine for any like tidbit of craft information
Yeah.
and then apply it. So yeah, so it was just that figuring out this is a job that you can have, and then I want it. So I did stand up at Passover dinner and announced to my family that I was going to be the artist of Spider-Man.
And
So and yeah, and if, years ago, my mom said to me, like it just hit her, and she went, "Man, you got close. God, like when a 6-year-old calls it, like Babe Ruth, you're
he
like
calling you shot.
man, that's amazing. Especially when you really consider the odds and the what's standing in your way.
Right. I,
what are the odds? So
I
it is incredible that
I do like how you at least pay tribute to. You're like, I at least did write like 200 issues of the character
yeah,
though, so
so
I was
close.
pretty
Yeah,
close to getting that
so
through.
close. And
Talk
I
about
did
those.
get to do a Daredevil cover. So
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
drawn for Marvel. I have technically
You
uh,
got it. You got
allowed.
that.
So
Yes. Does
even though Alex had to fix it for me because I suck. Anyway.
does your interaction that you had at those Comic Cons at an early age, has that kind of shaped how you interact with fans now at Comic Cons because you know what it was being a fan, being that like overzealous, like here's my stuff. Is like how did it shape you and affect you now as a as an established creator?
Um, B. Walt Simonson is words that pop in my head. And yeah, you kind of like, because I experienced heavy positive experiences at a convention, a couple of which I put in the book. I've also experienced, as maybe you have as well,
Mhm.
a creator that you really love being super shitty and not needing to be at all. In
Yep.
fact, going like, why are you at this convention if you're not? Maybe leave your table for a while if you're not there yet, and everyone has moments, but we're here for a thing. So yeah, I've taken it very seriously. And again, maybe it's just how I was it was such a powerful experience to have someone be that supportive of me
Mm.
then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that's our job is to be that, give everyone the moment that they're looking for. I'm also just my Jewish guilt. Like I know conventions are expensive and these books are expensive, and some people are waiting in line. And none of this is what I like signed on for when I when I started this, but that's the reality that we're in. So my job is to make sure that the interaction that we're having is going to be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as best as I can muster. And it's easy to do. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's hardly everyone's amazing. Like everyone comes up to you, they're just with awesome stories or anecdotes or things that they got from, everyone's got some weird thing they found at a flea market they want to show me. And it's always cool. And yeah, I was talking about I'm almost at my 35th year and I've never had a bad interaction at a convention.
Yeah.
I've never had someone, I mean, like Twitter is a whole different thing, but
Yeah. Social media is,
no, I like that's all that's why I don't take social media seriously at all because
yeah.
I've literally been around, not to be braggy, but like even this year I was in Belgium, last year I was in Abu Dhabi. I've been around the world. It is a powerful connective tissue that this medium is.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So it just rise to the occasion of it. And also, yeah, I could name the creators who were super mean to me as a young person and as a creator, like just really nasty. And I'm like, never, never, ever, ever. That is, why are you here? Like, why? It's comics. Why are you here if you can't enjoy this moment? You
Yeah.
know?
It's,
And if you can't go, stay home. Just okay. Not everyone's meant for everything. There's tons of spaces that I am not meant for that I just don't go into. I know I would not do well.
yeah.
But if you're here, you
Right.
know,
Well,
shake a hand,
yeah.
talk
And
about
like,
comics.
and enjoy it because
Yes.
there is something about comics that I do feel like in person, right? Like ignoring the internet because, and obviously, if you're watching this, you're watching on the internet, so I know it's tongue in cheek, but but like there's moments of like comics bringing people together that probably never would have been together. Like I was just in your city a little bit ago, Portland, for an event, like, and it was special, and there was a whole gathering of people together that
Yeah, I'm
never
sorry I wasn't there.
would
I'm
have
really
never been
sorry.
around because of comics, right? Like, and that's the beautiful thing about like what this medium does. And I think that's so powerful. And so when you get those moments in a comic, like you get those moments a lot more often, I think, in a Comic Con or at a convention because of that.
So, some of my collaborators are my found forever family,
Yeah.
and some of my collaborators are just friends, and some of them are just acquaintances. But it's, these are the people that have formed my life for decades. I mean, there are people in the comics that are, you know, in my will. I mean, it's just, this is my family.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's incredible space, and I'm always a little confused when people are either not up for it or just flat out abusing it.
Hmm.
Like I see it as a trusting space, and we see when you hear a creator acting like an asshole or being a terrible human being, you're like, here, like here, yeah. It just doesn't. It's crazy to me.
It's
Yeah.
I've gotten people sometimes of like, like, oh, you don't say anything really bad too much about comics online. I'm like, well, yeah, because I only bring on creators I want to talk to about their stuff. Why would I do it
And
any other
also,
way?
by the way, most online interactions are amazing. My threads are wide open.
Yeah, Threads
The
is great.
No, I mean, my like BlueSky is actually better, but we have like the Jinx World Discord, and
Mm,
we have, like basically our message board is back up and running, and the community is exceptional and supportive
yeah.
of each other, and quite wonderful. And I've been teaching like last 18 years at a college level, and that's watching communities start. It's really kind of amazing. By the end of a semester, like quite a few of the students have started making comics together. Like, and part of the class is me bringing in like Fraction and Kelly Sue and Mike Oming and people that are my found family from comics, and showing them that like the possibilities that a collaboration can bring to your life, and them going, yeah, I would like to try that, and seeing that bloom. So that's where 99% of my comics time is spent, either watching um, blossoming comic book collaborations or being part of them. So, that's the reality. And also, I must say that every once in a while, if I say something at a convention about something I got dinged on online, like I make like some joke about someone being mad about me killing Hawkeye or some John Kent thing or whatever, like I
Right.
really no one will ever forgive me for. I'll say something and the person always go, what are you talking? They know I like most comic readers have no idea whatever the angry discourse is.
That's
Yeah, and you bring it up and they go, what?
what?
What? Yeah.
And then they go and research it, and then they know, and they're like, "Oh, he did do that." Oh. One of the things too I love about this medium, like, is reading this comic. Like, I don't know if it happens to you, but there's moments where like you read something and it sparks or unlocks a memory that you completely forgot you had. And you mentioned it in Fortune and Glory about how one of the mediums that you consumed with comics was the records, the LPs that we're
I
talking
got
about.
a lot of feedback about that. I was so happy. That's a perfect example of I'm putting something out, like, does anybody get this at all? Because it's not like, and then I heard from everyone about that, or people sending me pictures of their collections.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
I I had vivid, like, as soon as I read that, I go, and a memory that I had locked away, forgotten about, of my dad sitting in his office and listening to the Jan and Dean Meet Batman LP. And it was from like 1966, and it had songs, but it was also then like, conversations like a comic book. Almost is like, oh my goodness, this just unlocked a fantastic, wonderful memory that I had completely forgotten about.
Yeah. I'm so happy. Thank you. That and the SeaWorld reference, the DC superheroes water skiers really triggered a lot of people.
It take
A lot of people experienced that. That was a good one. That was fun.
which and one of the things that I also
It's
like,
funny
you
because
mentioned,
the other one I posted, sorry to interrupt,
you're fine.
the DC superhero roast that was on NBC, I referenced that as well. You can watch that on YouTube, and more people have seen the SeaWorld spectacular.
That's fantastic. Well, you mentioned the SeaWorld Spectacular, and what I found was one of the things I really appreciated of the book is you have a lot of humor and, wit in it, and those moments of what is the running gag and the joke of your editor putting the post-it notes over the things, and all those post-it notes on the SeaWorld of the characters. Like, where was it for you, like, of like in creating process, you're like, oh, this could be a good bit that we do throughout the thing, and or was it really actually part of the process that you're like, you were doing it and they're like, no, we can't do this.
No, it's a few things. Number one, it's a bit I have done before. I did it. First of all, I think I stole it from like Not Brand X or something. Like it's. I think that bit is as old as
I
copyright.
love it though.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm just saying that I'm very, very clear that I know I did not invent that bit. But we used it like years ago. We were doing like some kind of humor issue at Marvel, and we did a Batman, Spider-Man crossover that Klaus Janson drew it. And then we put post-it notes like that. The lawyers going, no, 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 no. And that being the joke. It literally could have been from Ambush Bug now that I'm thinking about where the joke might come from. But so I had done the joke before. It's a funny joke. What's also funny is that every time we did it at Marvel, the artist drew the whole thing. So Klaus Janson did draw the cover and we did cover it up, which made it funnier, even though we said you didn't have to. And there was also a contest of licensed champions that of all books Marvel didn't have the rights to, like at the time, like Rom and Micronauts and everything I wanted to write that Marvel didn't have the rights to anymore. So we did a big pinup of that and covered it with post-it notes. So when this book was being put together, um, I number one, I, I explained to my lawyer that like I'm the idea isn't to piss anybody off. Like I'm not
Right.
this isn't a fuck you Marvel book.
Right.
It isn't, right? It is here's something that happened. So I'd like to do this like as warmly as possible,
Right.
right? And so there's a special kind of attorney that goes over this stuff, and um, he went over all of it, including like talking about people who you're not talking to anymore, and making sure that there's nothing liable or
Right.
any. And so they went through it, and he literally said to me, he goes, "You don't need to do all these post-it notes. You can use Spider-Man's likeness in certain ways as free use." As long, you not can't put it on the cover, you can't
Right.
say, hey, it's a Spider-Man, or you can't trick people into thinking it's a Marvel product, but you can describe and point out like there's Stanley biographies and other things where you do see the
Yeah.
characters show up little bits and pieces. And then so he kind of gave me permission to take the post-it note joke off of some of the parts. And I'm like, yeah, it's funnier with that. I go, it's funnier with it, and it made it very clear I'm trying to tell you a story, and that's it, right? Like there's no other
Right.
grievance here, right? Other than the story. So it did help sell the tone of it as well.
Yeah.
And
W-
it's also just funny to just remind people
Yeah.
also it's there's also this weird thing that goes just as 100% thing that I would have from my perspective is how many people do fan art or fan films and get wrapped up in their head that they don't realize you don't own Spider-Man. Like you can make your fan film, but there's a limited amount of things you can then do with it, right?
Right.
Like if you want to make a film and get it out there, like a fan films are fun to make and I really enjoy them and I've been blessed with quite a few. But then you see they try to kickstart or something, and they try to start raising money on it, and they get shut down immediately. And then sometimes they'll come to me like, "Hey, Marvel shut down my Kickstarter on my Spider-Man film." I'm like, "Yeah,
They're gonna want the money.
Like, and I don't want to squash anyone's, yuck anyone's yum or squash your vibe, but take that energy and make something new. Like yeah, make you go keep going with the idea of making a film, but they get wrapped up in thinking they own Spider-Man. And I just wanted to make it very clear that people understood I don't own Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you just talked about, take something and make it new. You have been known for in your career of creating a lot of new characters. And so like, and that have then like stood the test of time, with Miles Morales, Jessica Jones.
Amazing. Yeah.
Like, is it for you when you create these newer characters and, try something new, like you said, do you have an idea like that something might stick around, or is it that something special, or is it a little bit of both of like, I hope?
It's so hard to describe.
Yeah.
Um, like when I was dreaming my dreams of what my life in comics would be, when I would dream of like standing on the Eisner stage or whatever like whatever art form you're in, you dream the highest dreams, right? If you're a ballerina, you dream of the Royal Ballet. If you're an actor, you're like I'm on stage at the Oscars. Like there's always these dreams, but so much of the space of comics that we live in today, including the MCU and the streaming and what's happened to the graphic novel market, none of that existed when I was dreaming my dreams of being in comics. It all blossomed and evolved, sometimes around me while I was standing there, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey Brian, we're making an Iron Man movie, come help, right? Like, oh, what? Like I would
Okay.
like I wasn't sitting there while I was dreaming as I've written about in the book. Like you were only dreaming about the comics. Like I was so focused on how to make comics. So then they're like, "Hey, you want to make a Spider-Man video game?" Yes, I like keep saying yes, but well, I would never dream of thinking of that when I was dreaming it. So most of what's happened, like since about 2000, has been me going, "Wow, really? Huh?" And feeling, and I'm so deeply, I mean, one of the great blessings of my life is to be able to share this weird privilege with my best friends who have also experienced it. So I'm like just experiencing Spider-Verse, like
Hmm.
that first movie comes out and all the way to the Oscars, going, oh, okay, like wow, great, awesome, right? My name is on an Academy Award-winning movie that I'm really, really, really proud of, and that's amazing. And if people remember the Spider Stone and the like literally millions of pieces of fan art and people creating their own Spider-Mans based on the idea of Miles and sending it to us, it's overwhelming. It literally is over and it's worldwide, right? Comics can be very insular and small and containable and even at a convention, very, very easy to like it's just us, right? It's
Yeah.
it's our bubble, right? But Miles is far outside the bubble.
Yeah.
And Jessica Jones was also outside the bubble. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced that before. but it can be very surreal to the point where my brain shuts down. But then when Kelly Sue experiences it with Captain Marvel, just a couple months later, like literally, I'm not processed it, but I getting to watch her have the same experience made me be able to process it. Like, and what a gift that was. So no, I couldn't have perceived of any of this. I couldn't have dreamed of any of it. I'm deeply grateful for it. Um, Also, a lot of my heroes, I'll say Jack Kirby was one that comes to mind all the time because he said in interviews that I have highlighted and quoted, I really wish my work was on the whitest paper possible, and I wish all my characters were on the movie screen.
Mm,
And both things happened. And all his characters showing up on a movie screen became one of the greatest cultural moments in the history of the world, right?
yeah.
One of the great cinematic moments of this generation. He didn't get to experience it. He was no longer with us. For some reason, me and Kelly and Matt and my friends, we get to be alive and functional and part of the game while it's happening. And that is in itself its own blessing. Like I don't have to get wheeled into the room. I'm here, I'm part of it. So not only is it happening, but it's happening at a high level while I'm around, while my kids are there at a perfect age for my kids to experience it.
Yeah.
Um, like for me, my kids get to like they're not all into comics, but they're really into that they know Miles is a positive thing that is in the world that does nothing but make people happy,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, and I can say that whatever you do in life, whatever your goal is, you just that's the goal is to, you want to be a doctor, you want to whatever your goal is to bring something warm and kind to the world. And no, I couldn't have imagined any of this, including me even having kids. So so, not to over describe this, this is an enormous part of my life that I
Right.
am only half processed,
Yeah.
right? And knowing that I can only process it through Kelly Sue's experience lets me know I am not fully processing what's going on. And maybe I never will. Maybe it's not for me to process. Maybe it's just bigger than it can be. But I'll tell you, like, um, years ago, me and David Mack were literally at the Grove in LA having dinner. We've been friends since we were kids. Like we came up together and we were at a table and there were women at a table next to us having a loud conversation about Jessica Jones. They were just as the Netflix show was on the air and they were like really enjoying it and talking about it loudly. But the way people talk about like your favorite TV show,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But it was Jessica. And David is as connected to creation as Jessica as anybody else. And we're sitting there going, and we're like just like and then he goes, this isn't for us. Like I go, no, they don't, we're just a couple of schmucks at the table. And it was a very weird, like right next to us, people talking loudly about something that literally came out of our computers.
Yeah.
And and I was so like almost grateful that the Jessica thing was a real moment that kind of like got me ready for Miles.
Yeah.
And Miles has gone on now for almost 10 years, like since the first movie came out. Like the first movie came out in 17, I think.
Mhm.
So
Well,
it's been going on for a while.
yeah. Well,
And
it's
it is huge. And if people don't believe me, go to Instagram and look under Miles Morales birthday cake. And you will see the most beautiful worldwide. How many little kids get Miles themed birthday parties? It's just beautiful. It's
yeah.
just
I I love that so much because I had my kind of own experience, right? You live in this bubble like we talked about of like comics. And I'm like, oh, everyone knows this. And I we were synced up with my nephew who lived in London and we were in a COVID bubble for a holiday and stuff and I was talking to him. I was like, "Oh, you like Miles?" I was like, "Oh, well, have you read any of his comics and stuff?" He's like, "What?" I was like, "Oh my goodness, let me take you to a comic shop." I opened his world up, and now he has a pull list in London, and he's reading comics. And why, as a creator, why do you think there is this kind of disconnect between like the popular characters who've transcended comics and the comics that created them?
oh, you know, it's just a lot of people just don't read
Yeah,
anything. It's just and it's not and there are a lot of hit movies based on books that people never read the book or even knew it was a book, right? You hear
true.
that all the time. Oh, it was a book? I mean, it just the source material. Yeah, it's I don't know. I try not to be too judgmental about it. I
No, yeah,
get it.
yeah.
I mean, I do it all the time. I've seen a million movies I've never read or will ever read the book. I even things I really liked. I just will never get around to it. So I try not to wrap my head about it. I know like a lot of comic creators can get like read the book and like they if it's meant to happen, it will. Like it's
Right.
not like they're but yeah, it's just people like to experience the way they like to experience. I will say, but with Miles, the games are even bigger than the movie as far as like the amount of people that play it and the experience and how they perceive the character is through the game more than any other medium that the character has been through. So, and that audience, I somehow I always want to get them a little closer to the comics if I can,
Yeah.
but because I do think they would dig it. I do think like the
Right.
game players can be often like more like it's their persona, you know what I mean? They get more involved and invested. That I do think that the special language of comics would
Hmm.
be very appealing to them because as getting back to the reason we're talking is that there's a special magic of words and pictures that comics bring that no other medium can bring. And even
Yeah.
though there's a million interactions that movies can bring and video games and VR and all that, but still the comics medium is a special brain sauce
Yeah.
that I'm delighted by. I'm delighted that it's like no matter what technology does, it don't do this or it just evolves with it, right? And I kind of love that. So I do like people ask me, I go, yeah, please read the comics. And I love to point anyone in any direction of any book that I think that they would dig based on whatever movie or TV show they just it went off about, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't listen. Like I think anyone who reads comics, it's your job to leave your comics laying around so one of your friends may don't say, "Hey, you have to read this." No one ever reads a book if you hand it to them, say, "Have to read it." I've had literally people who are important in my life hand me a book and said, "This made me think of you," and I'm like, "I don't want to read that." I'm like,
Oh, that's scary. No,
Yeah,
don't.
I don't want to know what you're talking about. But like I've done it with my kids like their whole lives. Where I will just um leave books laying around that I think they might dig.
Hmm.
Or I'll go, this is a cool one, and I put it down and I'll walk away and let them decide on their own if they want to read it or not. And that's my favorite kind of way to do it. So I tell anybody who asks me, like, just leave them laying around.
I love it.
Let them do their job. They pull people in.
They do, and what's so fantastic, as I'm a dad of two young girls, and I early on I was like, oh, get them reading comics, and like I would give them like Kitty Batman books and stuff like this, and like it didn't stick at any. And at one point, they saw a free comic book day that had ballerina, kids that in ballet class on the cover. They saw it, they read it. We're now like 15 books into the babysitter graphic novels. And I'm like, this has been great because they kind of discovered something that they liked. So I love that. Just leave it
No,
around.
I had a weird early interaction where Anne Rice was doing a signing in Cleveland,
Mm.
and one of my best friends was a huge Anne Rice fan, so I bought her. They had an interview with a vampire adaptation. I think Innovation put it out. It's like
Okay.
I'm sure it didn't age well, but they had put it out at the time, and I gave it to her. I said, "Oh, here, this is. I bet nobody else will have this at the signing, or I gave it to her, like, here's something special to get signed, right? For her. And she was in line, and everyone in line said, "What is that?" They were like, everyone wanted it. The minute they saw it, they all wanted it. So that's my feeling about comics is just walk around with it. Eventually people will come to it if it's calling to them.
Yeah.
And some people will never call to them, much like sports never calls to me. Like it's just people are drawn to certain things, but it is deeply fun when it does happen. I kind of just focus on that more than I focus on when
Oh.
it doesn't happen. I also, I think a little bit of privilege is something about the whole Miles Morales experience that is beyond what me and Sarah did
Hmm.
and beyond what me and David Marquez did is there's something about the video games are exceptional. There's something that motivates excellent work out of game designers, filmmakers, animators. The Spider-Verse movie had 1,000 animators on it at one point. Some of them are my heroes, like and peers that I love, like Chris Anka and Bill Sienkiewicz, like people Sanford Green was working on Spider-Verse. I'm like, God, I just like my whole heart is like, I love that like people are making money off this and they're living it and they're doing their best work. Like they're doing their work of their lives. They're like everyone's like motivated to do like to yes and this up to the highest mountain, and I can't tell you why, and I don't like I like because whatever we did with Miles I do on everything, like, so I don't know
Right.
why Miles there's something special where it motivates great work out of artists from all over the world, and then it also then because of that special energy motivates people to draw stuff or make stuff on their own. And I must say, like, if I did have a dream that I really said, wouldn't it be great to be part of something that made other people want to make stuff?
Yeah.
Like when I was coming up, The Matrix was one of those. Like there's always like a book or a movie that a lot of people start doing fan art or yes anding
Yeah.
creation out of. And I always on a high level, right? And you get a little bit of it with the comics. Like even we get so much power as fan art and fan films and stuff like that. So I always had a little taste of it and I really appreciated it. But the Miles thing was so big that it just felt like,
Yeah.
that there it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're like, why can't everything be this way? This is awesome. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
also it's the best of humanity. It's just people making positive stuff.
yeah.
None of it's negative. None of it's hateful. None of it's angry. It's just, I want to be my best self. Here's my Spider-Man.
I love that. One of the first things that I have a distinct memory of, because I then once I discovered your work and then I got into the other stuff of some of the indie, like Goldfish and Torso
Thank
and
you.
things like that. But one of my first exposures to you was your run on Daredevil, which has become one of my favorite runs. Just something that I revisit often because I just think the writing, it has that kind of crime noir feel that now I see like Goldfish and stuff that kind of
No, I
brought
was a
into
crime writer.
that influenced it.
I had made myself a crime writer throughout the entirety of the 90s. It was almost all I was doing to the point where I was like, oh, I'm never gonna my dreams of Marvel were fading as I'm like, clearly I'm not doing anything they do. Like I really had a moment where I go, this is not what they do. So why are you sending them? I think I wrote that in the book where I'm like, why are you sending them submissions of stuff they don't publish?
Right.
And so when I found my way there, yeah, I was a crime writer. Like I was using all the lessons of a crime writer to write what was a crime book. I mean, it was from its earliest days, and I did have the great moment where I was reading a I because I grew up under the Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns came out my senior year in high school.
Okay.
So this is how important Frank Miller's entire journey was to me as a young creator. So my first goal on Daredevil was don't copy Frank because if since Frank, it would have been like a lot of creators on a lot of different books doing Frank, right?
Right.
Or doing, oh, is that what people want? I'll do that. And like, no, the lesson isn't do that. It's look into what inspired it and do that. Do what's behind the inspiration. So with Frank, it was going back to the fact that Daredevil was a pulp hero book. It
Yeah.
wasn't a traditional superhero book. If you look at the early Marvel books, it is clearly more like the Shadow than it is like the Fantastic Four, and it's been written and drawn that way, right? And so those first few Wally Wood issues and stuff, so it kind of like, look, oh, I will do my version of the pulp hero. Me and David will do our version of what that pulp hero is. I also had the great benefit of my new boss and soon to be excellent friend was in charge of the book, the artist of the book. Daredevil was his favorite character. So there was a lot of um, motivation
Mhm.
to not fuck up on
Yeah.
every conceivable level. Also, Daredevil being the most important book to us as young kids, me and David were like, "Oh, we can't fuck this up. Oh, we don't be the bad guy. Don't run," because it does have one of the greatest legacies of
It really
creators.
does.
It really does, and you can feel it when you're on it. I've been on a lot of books that have
Mm.
had ups and downs creatively, and but on Daredevil, there's an extra there just is. There's
Yeah.
just an extra sauce to it. And everyone's felt it. I've talked to creators who've been on it since I left. They felt it too. And you're not from me, but from
Right.
Frank and Gene Colan and beyond. So yeah, so it's a big thing. I will say my last few weeks have been me and my son watching Born Again. A lot of my Daredevil stuff written before he was born,
Mm,
right? Uncle David Mack is a very important person in his life. There's David Mack's paintings all over the place. David and I came up together, riding from convention to convention, just talking about Frank Miller's Daredevil all over the country
yeah.
and to each other. So to us to now, here we are years later, have both our names in the credits of a Daredevil show that is so well made and
Yes.
so genuinely warm towards us. No one would know. I don't think I've ever went like how hard I worked on the Trial of the White Tiger. I worked so hard on it when it was came out. Like over the top. You ever like work too hard on something and then you go, all right, well, I clearly needed to, but now that it's over, I know like 30% of that was just
Yes,
anxiety.
this is me for like every big interview. I'm like, I'm gonna read as much stuff as I can.
Yes, but that's the way to do it. So with the Trial of the White Tiger, I decided to do a courtroom scene,
Mm,
but I was so like immersed in my heroes like Richard Price doing their own research. Like, don't just do a trial like you saw on TV. And also, I had been a courtroom artist
mm,
for a local television station in the 90s as part of my bills paying. So I knew the courtroom in a way that was a little different than most comic creators. So I knew what I wanted to get out of this, right? Well, how I wanted to create this trial. And I remember like I would call my lawyer personally and like throw out the argument at him. Just and at one point he went, hey, is this a real person? I go, no, because then you're fine. And that's when I knew I was kind of overdoing it. So, but then to have years later the gift of other creators who I don't know just say, "Hey, that was a good idea. Thanks for doing that."
yeah.
It's a huge blessing that again, talking about things that you would dream of is as having an excellent version of this idea that you thought only you really cared about
Yeah.
out there and
Yeah.
to share it with my son. Like it's cool. It's that show that's just a little too adult for him, but not so adult where it's like, we did have I don't know spoilers, but we had to cover his eyes for the first time in a long time on a Disney Plus show. I had to cover
Yeah.
his eyes.
You're like,
It's a big thing.
maybe this last episode we're gonna just cover some eyes.
It was so funny because I hadn't seen it, but I did see someone online go, "Well, that was the most violent thing that will ever be on Disney Plus." And I'm gonna call it right here. I'm like, "Oh, I wonder." And then you see it, and you're like, "Yeah, that would be the most violent thing I've ever seen." And
Yep.
I did. It covers like he didn't see it, but he could tell what was happening, right?
Yeah.
And then he did turn to me and goes, "Now can I see John Wick?"
He's like, now you've opened the door. You've opened the
John Wick
floodgate.
is the only that's the line he wants to see John Wick, and everyone keeps saying no to him.
You're like,
And
when it
in
comes
a
on
piece,
Disney Plus, sure.
probably is.
It
Anyway,
probably is.
so
Well, Ryan, I feel like I could talk to you forever, but I want to respect your time. But I would be remiss because you have two projects that are about to come out at the time of this recording. You've got an issue in the Minor Threats world of
yeah,
Twilight City, which I've been a huge fan of this universe with,
me too.
Patton and Jordan, and then you have, Tim Seeley's run and Kyle Stark stuff, and it's been so good. And then and Allred's getting to do that first issue. Like, real quick, how did you get connected with this universe, and what can we expect for your issue?
I've weirdly known Patton for a very long time. Patton like referenced me in the Comedians of Comedy movie like years. It was the first time I'd been mentioned like outside of like Wizard magazine. Like, and I was like, oh, that's super. It was really nice. And we'd been we did dinner a couple of times and it's really just you know like many people just enjoy everything about him and also love that he's a true comic book creator. Like he really like there's another version of his life where he's just making comics all the time and in my opinion. And so my editor at Dark Horse, Daniel Shaban, who edits most of the great creator-owned books that Dark Horse does, Kelly Sue's FML, Black Hammer, all these wonderful books that are there. He sent me the PDF of the first Minor Threats and goes, "Here's Patton's and Jordan's new book," and I was like, "Oh, it's so good!" And I did have that. Like, sometimes I get to read them early, and I'm like, "Am I overly into this?" And
Yeah.
only to like have other people come out and like I had the same thing with Kelly Sue's Historia. I'm like, oh shit. Like I'm reading it like a year before everyone else and going, and then I get to not be just a friend out there yelling, "My friend did something great."
Right.
It's really is seen as something great. And so I got to experience Minor Threats and I really loved it. And I'm a big fan of this kind of world building. Um, uh, a Black Hammer, and we did that with Powers. I love finding an original angle in on something that is so ubiquitous in our culture. So I was and then I got a call. They go, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this." And it's a little more than people think. It's not just like an anthology of cool stories. It's like we would like you to add something
Hmm.
to our universe, and then you will be part of this universe, right? So it's like Sue and I have created a character in a little section of the Minor Threats universe that will then now be part of the next storyline that they're doing. And we were thrilled about that too, because they're they really got into it. And so every one of us like picked a new thing. So for people who are into like creating new characters and new things, this is a brand new character. It's also like the first superhero thing I've written in a couple of years of kind of um, uh, consciously taking
Right.
time to focus on graphic novels and this new space that uh, built around us that's so exciting to be part of. That's why I'm doing Phenomena and other things. So this is the first time I've done an actual superhero anything in quite a while, and it's a new collaboration with Sue, and we got along great. We're going to do new stuff together after this. So this is like something that's very a little diamond. I'm very, very excited that's coming out because it was a great experience behind the scenes. It was everything they promised and more, surrounded by people I love, like Matt and Mike Allred. Me and Mike Allred debuted at Caliber the same month in comics. We
Wow.
debuted the same month, and it's someone I admire a great deal. So being part of this crew, being part of this world, being part of it was a big, big thing. And not to overstate it, but it was such a good experience that it got me off my ass to do something else that will be announced very soon.
Well, the last one I was going to mention, you just mentioned Phenomena.
Thank you.
You've got your third hardcover coming out here in May, I believe, right?
So Phenomena is now a book series, I'm proud to say, that comes out from Abrams Comics Art. It is co-created and illustrated by Andre Lima Araujo, who is just an exquisite illustrator.
Those.
Who I just anyone you go to my any of my social media and take a look at his or mine, and you can see what a true one of a kind, unique talent he is. And we've been building this world together for years. And these graphic novels are big, sweeping, giant things aiming towards a big giant adventure. If you like Avatar, the Airbender, it's not like that at all, but that energy of like those big sweeping all ages kind of deals, I think you'd really dig this. And if you just love comic art, it's just worth the price of admission for
Oh,
that alone.
the
It's a
the
beautiful, beautiful book.
some of the spreads that I've seen, I catch myself just staring at it because like the vast world building that you all have and that creators and the character designs, I'm like, this book's taking me forever to read, and there's not even words on it, but it's taking me
Oh,
forever
a lot of times,
because I can't
yeah.
because I don't want to like I'm like I don't want to turn off this page.
No, I'm like, well, not only am I going to cover this up with words, yeah, it's all there on the, just stare at it. It's all there. Like, it's the book I type the most and you've seen the least of from me. Like, it's an enormous amount of uh, talking back and forth between the two of us, but this collaboration was just just beautiful from beginning to end. And not only am I thrilled that we finished this trilogy, the reaction that we've gotten from people, it definitely like it's a great book if people liked Miles and are looking for something else or looking for another kind of comic experience, it has been very successful in getting people who are reading that kind of work for me at Marvel into something else. And I remember when I was reading only Marvel or DC and I ventured out into different kinds of comics, it was very, exciting.
Yeah.
You remember that experience too. It's like you're reading your first like out of your comfort zone, and then you realize, oh no, this is my comfort zone. Hey,
Right.
I like this. And like for me, it was like American Flag and some of the comics that were being created around the mainstream space, but weren't technically mainstream books. But for us right now, it's these graphic novels, particularly in the YA space, of which Phenomena does technically fit, even though it's really all ages. But and it's about our world. It's about the Earth. Something has happened to the Earth. It's not apocalyptic. It's something else, and the characters are just journeying through it and trying to figure out how what to make of the world just as it's kind of reforming itself. And it's something we're deeply proud of. And again, Andre, it's the Andre show. And I felt very much like talking back to the Frank Miller days, when I was a kid and Frank Miller introduced us to G.F. Darrow in the pages of Hard Boiled or Rusty Robot. He really kind of said like there's a different job here. Like my job is to like show you
Mm,
this art, and that's how I feel about Andre, and not
yeah.
not to like connect us that way, but I feel like the job here is to like look at this. So yeah, it was a great experience top to bottom. Can't wait for people to see the third book, which weirdly makes the first book look um, it's incredible how much he's grown in the
It-
in
le-
pages.
I feel like the term level up gets you overutilized, but like there's just just completely different from the first, and that's no knock on the first one because it's stunning still.
Yeah, and we smartly, and the one thing I'm really proud of is that every book has a different location. We travel, it's a real travel log.
Mhm.
So that the one part takes place in one space, and the second book takes place in basically what was London, right? So we're in a very special part of the world, and then we're basically in Canada for the third book, and it's a very different visual language. So each book feels different. That's very much a Star Wars trick.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the first one was dusty. The second one's gonna be snowy. The third one's gonna be jungly, right? Like there was I thought that was a great way to like
Yeah.
really build your worlds and figure out your flavors. So, but yeah, but it's just thank you for everyone who supported it. It's what a gift to have these books on the shelf.
Yeah. If if you haven't picked up any of the books we've talked about, especially Fortune and Glory, the musical, the Minor Threats book, Welcome to Twilight City, issue number two, or Phenomena like one, two, three, like go call your shop, get them to order it. You're not going to regret it.
Anywhere they sell graphic novels. And the one other thing, if you don't mind the plug,
Go for
is
it.
for people who are digging we have a lot of people revisiting or visiting our Daredevil stuff for the first time, particularly from the show. And there's new versions of our Daredevil run out from Marvel, and it's been really amazing to have people revisit those books. But at the same time, Alex and I just finished our first volume of our new creator-owned book called Masterpiece, and it's a multi-generational crime comic that we're very, very proud of. And Alex has done amazing work. That's also come out from Dark Horse Jinx World, and it's out right now. So if you want more crime stuff from me and Alex,
Yes.
we got fresh stuff,
Ah,
starting brand new characters. Couldn't be more proud of.
yeah.
So
I love that Marvel. I have the Daredevil hard Omni right behind me. I'm glad that they re-released those so I could afford to get it.
yes. Oh, by the way, for those of almost every day, someone reaches out to me about the pricing of the omnibuses on eBay. I have absolutely no control or say of any of it. I would rather you get these books as cheaply as humanly possible so you can buy more of them. That is
Right.
my goal. Buy more books cheaply.
Yes.
But if you buy them at the high price, if that's what happened, God bless you. I have done it too. I know the feeling. But please, there's nothing I can do about it. I have no control over
There's,
this.
you don't run that market.
No, they do. I got a lot of aftermarket, like, hey, dude. I'm like,
You're like, That's
I
how
can't,
it
I
works.
can't help it. I also can't help them going into the quarter bins. I can't help either one of those things. Neither
Right.
is under my purview. So
Uh,
anyway, hey, I must say I deeply appreciate you reading the books and preparing for this conversation. I was looking forward to it. So
Same
thank you
here.
for
Thank you so much for just taking some time out of your schedule to talk about comics with me. Where can people follow along with you and stay up to date with what you're working on?
very easy. Jinxworld.com is my website, and the website is where you can find out what's going on with all the stuff. You can sign up for the newsletter, which will also you can sign up for. We have a subscription service that was, basically from our Substack newsletter, where you can join. We have a ongoing class situation for people who want to make comics. We have dozens of hours of comic classes recorded and archived on almost every subject you can think of, starring every one of my collaborators and friends that I could get on camera. And that continues onto the Discord where the community of creators who are part of the class help each other and support each other. What we're doing this summer as part of the newsletter is we are just announced, everyone on the Discord who has the time or inclination, who wants to, can write a 5-page autobiographical comic book script, which I will then give feedback on just based on craft,
Yeah.
like what your relationship to the script is. It's a assignment I do in class. It's very nurturing, very good way for a lot of people to get a lot of notes quickly. And also we're bringing back the Jinx World Book Club. We're teaming up with John Stutcher's Word Balloon, a
Oh, nice.
Patreon, and we're starting the book club back up. The next book will be Criminal by Ed and Sean, and spoilers, it's really great.
It's a great book. So, well,
So it's a great community. If you want to be part of it, come join us.
yeah.
If not, this is where you can just catch us online and see what's going on.
Yep. And the links to all the things that we talked about will be in the description of this video, or if you're listening wherever you get your podcast, it'll be in the links in the descriptions there. So, Brian, thank you again for just taking some time to talk about comics with me.
And if someone hasn't listened, this is their first episode of this, listen to the Jason Aaron episode. That's a great episode of this podcast.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate
All
that.
right. No problem.
So, with that being said, hopefully you all can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out.
Yes. Go read. There's nothing else to do. Just go read a comic.